Hello, duckies and dice fiends. Welcome on in. This is the Chaotic Wholesome Presents Table Talk Show. Hi, Zykram. I am Kay. I am here with my supervisor, Gilmore, who is very much keeping an eye on me today. And we're going to talk about some... We had to tick the sponsored product button on the streams today because Wizards of the Coast was kind enough to send us the deck of many things and the book of many things. And we're going to talk about that a little bit, as well as D20s. But first, David, who the heck is you and what the heck is we doing here?
Hi, I am David, and welcome to the Pajama Party. Welcome to the Chaotic Wholesome Presents talk show, table show. Welcome to the Chaotic Wholesome Presents Table Talk Show, currently the Tuesday Table Talk Show, because this is when we do it, where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better person, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everybody can have a good time.
So, as I said before, we're going to go over the Book of Many Things today. I tried to look at my calendar, which is no longer here, because I actually decorated this wall instead of having a makeshift calendar. So now I am forever confused. However, I will be playing on the circus game tomorrow over at Goblin Cave TV, where you can find me playing the Pathfinder 2e adventure. Circus of the Broken Chain, I forget. Extinction Curse is the name of the Pathfinder adventure. Thursday, Friday, David and I plan to be back playing more Baldur's Gate unless something absolutely bananas happens. We have some cool things spinning up soon. We just got to announce starting on February 10th, part of Black History Month. Come on by every Saturday at noon for Body and Soul, which is, I mean, David knows more about it than I do because he's running production. But an incredible story about the gods of the Motherlands and their experiences journeying through America. So, sounds to me, correct me if I'm wrong, David, very Neil Gaiman's book that was a TV show that had
American
one good season.
Gods.
Thank you. Very American Gods. It's sounding like.
Yes, it's like 30% American Gods, but it is following gods through eras in the United States. And I don't want to give too much away, so that's all I'm going to say about it for now. But I expect all of you to be asses in seats when we run this game.
I am super excited, and I get to be just another butt in a seat because I'm not part of the cast or crew, obviously. And as you might have seen in our preview, our pre-roll ads, Emergency Power Podcast is back. I'm really entertained by the clips we're putting out. But I'm also going to be in a 3-shot of Emerald Templars run by D'Angelo Murillo. I am very excited about that. That one's not announced yet, so I'm not going to talk about that other one yet. And I just found out I will be at PAX East. So if anyone's going to PAX East, look out. I will be wandering around. So with all of that out of the way, first thing we need to talk about today is this pretty little creature, the Book of Many Things. Now, most of y'all, is anyone here not familiar with the Deck of Many Things?
Let's start with like a preface for people who don't know
Rex.
about the Deck of Many Things.
So, part of what's interesting about the Book of Many Things is that the entire first bit of it actually catalogs the history of the Deck of Many Things.
This is bullshit.
From the Dungeons and from the 1979 first appearance through Dungeons and Dragons magazine, through 3rd edition, through 4th edition, all the way to where we are now. Oh, David, your closed captions are not working.
That's why I was having my little tantrum.
Okay. Try that. Thank you for the heads up on that. We do try to keep it nice and inclusive and accessible. Hey,
Also,
Candace, welcome on in.
one thing that I don't feel people like recognize enough is how much people who don't necessarily need the accessibility tools use accessibility tools.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like when my mother was alive and she blew out her knee stepping off of a curb, um, all of the wheelchair ramps, like if you had a wheelchair ramp at your business, even after her knee had recovered, she was walking up the wheelchair ramp.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know about y'all, but like, if I'm working and I've got like music going, or if I'm playing a game and I've got Twitch going and you have subtitles, I can follow along on mute.
Mm-hmm.
Not muted on the stream, because muted on the stream like does something with Twitch, so you got to mute on the tab so that Twitch knows that you're still watching. But like I'll follow along and still like watch that while I'm doing whatever other thing that I'm doing. Whereas in another case where like if you didn't have those, then I'm not going to be able to sit and watch your stream while I'm doing other things. And let's face it, not all of us have time to sit and watch Twitch streams exclusively for 16 hours a day. Like we all got stuff that we got to be doing. So, or like, you know, I found out that people who have ADHD enjoy TV more, like film and TV, if there are subtitles. Like they have an easier time keeping track, or I forget what the exact thing is. But
JD just said, when my ADD kicks in, I realize I dissociated for a minute. I can catch back up with subtitles.
right. And then, you know, also people who have accents, like there are people who have not parsed certain parts of like the British accent, because
I
there's
also will just sometimes go, what did they say? Rewind. Like I always play with my Netflix always has captions on.
right. And so like, you know, so like sure, if a deaf person is watching this, this is for you. But also, like whenever there's a discussion about like accessibility or making things for people, like it helps all of us. Like I'm not gonna
Accessibility helps everyone.
right.
Hey, Mallory.
I
Hello, Australia Stormforge. Thank you for the follow.
I cut you.
We were talking
Hi. But yes, we're talking about the deck of many things.
So, the deck of many things has been in Dungeons and Dragons since first edition, when it was actually kind of hacked together using, and GMs were told to use all the face cards from a deck of playing cards plus the jokers, and they had meanings attached to each of them. It's gone through many revisions, including, I think it was at 3 or 3.5 where it was sentient.
I think it was. Now I'm curious. I'm going to Google it.
Hold on, I can flip to that page. Largely, artificial hero. Does anyone know off the top of their head? Meanwhile, my sister's ADD and hates subtitles because they distract her. The only time subtitles really bother me are if I'm watching something and the subtitles come up before the person says a thing, and it
Oh yeah, it's the worst. Where the timing is bad.
Yes, you gotta be good about that.
I noticed that the most in anime, because with the way the Japanese language is set up, a lot of times like the proper nouns are at the end of the sentence.
Yeah.
Whereas in English, it got to be at the front, and so they'll write it so that it spoils the end of the. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So, Book of Many Things. Again, the Deck of Many Things has gone through many iterations. Like I said, the first one was a regular set of playing cards, and then by the time third edition came around, people were more familiar with and had an easier time getting their hands on tarot cards. And so a lot of them moved into tarot cards, which is why you will actually see the first card in the deck of many things is the Fool, which is also the first card in the tarot deck. As continues, it's not one for one, but there are certainly a number of similar cards. And again, that was done on purpose. We use the deck of many things in charity games. An idea that I 100% lifted from B. Dave Walters because it is fun and chaos. And Jen Mack's little old lady had to fight death, which that was a twist I wouldn't have come up with. And the best part was she had to fight death. Death was scared away for a reason. Watch the Lullaby for the Christmas Lich to find out why. And I'm like, you face down death. What does she do? Jen's like, this is just Tuesday. She sits down and finishes cooking. So the Book of Many Things is a revision of the Deck of Many Things. Now, there's actually this actually comes with the book. It comes with a box. Inside the box is another book. And then beneath the book in the box are 3 decks. The Deck of Many Things was originally 18 cards. It has now been expanded to 22. It was expanded to 22. It has now been expanded to 66. So this book is dedicated just to how to read the cards. And the cards themselves have been expanded to do more than just what they did before. This book is largely dedicated to different and incredibly interesting ways to use the Deck of Many Things. And also, as the full 66 card set is now called, the Deck of Many More Things. So, I want to talk a little bit about those. Okay, look, this book is not very big. It is a small book.
But it's a book about the cards.
Yeah.
Like if you have a page for every card and you say there's 66 cards, and you throw in some art, you're already fleshing out a book that's 100, right? It's as big as a DMG.
A little bit smaller. But it definitely feels like it's not the page count is not excessively huge. It's 188 or 9 pages, give or take, depending upon text at the end. I'm dropping everything. But the reason I want to bring up
that is an analogy of my life.
I want to bring that up because so many of these pages each have different ways to use each of these cards. There's a lot of different ways for you to sit down and take these decks and use them. The first thing it tells you is hey, this thing is infamous for breaking games. And it absolutely can and does. You can suddenly own a keep. And then your entire campaigns become, do I defend this keep? Do I sell it off? Right? Is it being attacked? Your character can die. Your character can lose levels. Your character can level up above the rest of the party, which can be game breaking in and of itself. So one of the first things that they give you is a cheat sheet of here's how to balance these cards. And they straight up encourage you, if you're using this and you're at a low level, here are the cards that you can use for levels 1 to 10. Take all the other cards out of this deck. If you have roleplay focused campaigns, here are the best cards that invoke roleplay. Obviously use it and customize it to your thing, but they give you a number of combinations that you can use in the way that will best suit your table, and then tell you to go and explore beyond that, which is cool. They also tell you, here are different ways these cards can be used, not as a deck, but your characters can find a singular card, pull it out, and once a day use that power. And each card has a different power based on what it is, which is a really cool use of a card. Like it's a free once a day spell, basically. Beyond that, it has tips and rules for divination, character creation, and encounter design, exploration design, all sorts of things that you can use as a GM or to enhance your games. So the first thing that I get asked about these cards, because we waited a little bit to cover this because we did get it before it came out, and WotC, basically said, you are going to get this before it goes to the public, so please be careful don't go and immediately show every single card because some people might be spoiled and not like that. But I do want to show you all the deck. It's been long enough now that I'm happy to go through them, but there was the reason these were delayed. We were supposed to get these back in November. We did not get them until recently because some of the cards were said to be damaged, and WotC went through every box, pulled all the damaged cards. So yes, the cards that we got are beautiful, flawless, like no damage to the cards, which was a big concern for a lot of people getting this set. So there they are.
Damn.
Gold foiled edges, very, very beautiful.
So, like, I do want to take like an extra second to talk about like content.
Please.
Because, we talk about, like, you have the stack of not every D&D book, because I don't know anybody who's rolling with that kind of money.
Yeah.
Listen, if you have every D&D book, sponsor the channel, and by sponsor the channel, I mean buy us a house. Buy us a house in a high cost of living area, preferably Los Angeles. And also finance us for like 5 years or so. So that's like what, like $2.5 million plus the house? If you got all the D&D stuff, we will graciously accept that. And that's after the gift tax. Anyway.
Continue.
But like I said, you said 66 cards. Mm-hmm. If there's a page for every card and a forward and a credits and an index, you're looking at 80 pages. And so the fact that that book is almost as big as the DMG means that Wizards put a lot of thought and effort into making it worthwhile content-wise.
So let me tell you, there is not a page for every card. There are 22 chapters for each, one chapter for each of the cards in the original deck of many things, or the main deck of many things. The Fool is just like in Tarot, the beginning tells you how to read the book and what's in it. Then it breaks down. So the Rogue card has Magic card decks, Hero's Destiny, and a Rogues Gallery, and is all focused around bards, rangers, and rogues, and characters who use cunning and wit to get through. So this section is specifically dedicated to those kinds of things.
They made it focused on Rangers?
Well, on that section.
Wizards paid attention to Rangers for once? Not enough attention, because something hasn't gotten it. Anyway.
So the Sage section focuses on magic users. And so there's Rangers exist. Who knew?
Right.
Well, I will say the Drake Warden Ranger is really fun to play. Probably could have still used it, but really fun to play. So it has feats like the Cartomancer. It has more spells. It has things dedicated to wizards, warlocks, and what's the other one? Wizards, warlocks, and
sorcerers.
Thank you. And then chapter 8 is the Fates card. And so it deals with fates and gods. So paladins, clerics, and there's another one there, and I've lost it. But it has backgrounds. So everything kind of broke down. The Knight card is dedicated to barbarians, fighters, and another one. So then it breaks it down further. So there is chapter 10 is the sun card, and it's a full location that you can get to using the deck of many things called the Solar Bastion. So it's a location with maps and plot points that you can play through and add into your campaign. The moon is the Moonstalkers, this group, this thieves guild, this rogues guild that have a dark secret, and you can add into your game. So it's got Jester is the Sealy Market, which is this huge exotic marketplace that is carried through the sky by a giant fairy dragon. Whereas Ruin is the history of the Grandmore Abbey. There is an abandoned ruin that you can go and explore, and it's a full dungeon built into it. Same thing with Donjon, is it's this crumbling prison that you can get pulled to through the deck. And there's a whole adventure to explore in there. So it's not just a single thing for every card. It is multiple ways to use each card, and then also things that relate to those cards. So there's backgrounds, there's feats, there's spells, there are more magic items, there are locations. There's actually quite a lot.
Yeah, like like I said, it's a lot of effort put into it, and I really appreciate it, because, like, you know, I've been around the internet, especially the past like couple of weeks, where people have talked about some of the other things that Wizards has released, in comparison to other things from different systems and different platforms, and they're like, this other platform does this thing better. It's more clearly explained, or there's more content, or yada yada. And I am, and for one, I'm happy that Wizards was like, no, this we're gonna nail. Like, this is important. We're gonna get this right, and it's gonna be good. And even going back and, like, you know, hearing that they're damaged cards and be like, well, we're gonna delay release.
Yeah.
Because I forget what game designer said it, but, like, they said you can only release a game for the first time once.
Yeah.
And then also, like, there's a fine line to walk between having really good, well thought out, well executed content and just filling pages.
Yeah.
Because on the flip side, we've all flipped through a system where, you know, it'll be 60 pages and we'll use 5 pages of it. Or it'll be 200 pages and we'll use 15 pages of it. And so that I really appreciate about the deck.
So again, a lot of this, and I know I keep coming back to this, but they put forth a lot of interesting ways to use the deck. For example, this is their recommendation for challenge things. So if you're doing some sort of exploration, or they're putting this forward a lot of times as a way to use RNG without using dice. And they're encouraging you to lean into the symbolisms and what things can mean. So with this one, this is a 3-day thing that's going to happen. This is a 3-day event that your players know they're going to be exploring a cave or have 3 challenges from a god or something like that. And so you put down 2 cards, one on top of the other. And hey, welcome, Judy. And you have your players flip the cards, right? Because they really encourage this to be very physical. We generally play online, so we have to, like, do it this way. But they encourage you to flip a card. So for the first one, it's Sage. In this example. So they get Sage upright. The Sage card suggests an opportunity to gain insight or advice. Perhaps the characters come to a primordial that allows them to see the surrounding terrain for many miles. Ask the character who flipped the card to make a DC, Wisdom, Perception, or Survival check to choose the best path. Once they get through the end of that challenge, whatever it is, they can then flip a reward or ruin card. And so whatever card flips, that's what's going to happen. And if it's a good card, they get a good thing. If it's a bad card, they get a bad thing. In this particular instance, they got the comet. Comets are harbingers of doom. If the character succeeds on a wisdom check and chooses the better path, the character's travel time decreases by a day, but their path is lined with omens that foretell terrible evil events when they will reach their destination. If the character fails the wisdom check and picks the worst path, the characters are troubled by nightmares that portend disastrous future, preventing them from finishing a long rest that night.
Yikes.
So it kind of, and again, as a GM, it gives you a little bit of freedom to be like, okay, comet portends a bad thing. That could mean no one gets a long rest. It could also mean, hey, this one particular character who's going through it, you don't get the long rest, right? You can adjust it to your party and to the story you're trying to tell. And so, again, I mentioned like the donjon. This is this is an entire setting with a mini campaign in it that you just take and you drop into your session. Yeah, it really is. And again, a lot of what they're talking about is it definitely can be challenging, especially with dice. With these cards, you know, you kind of have visuals that you can lean into. And one thing that's really fun with tarot, and I've done this to a couple of people, especially with cards that have changed some meanings over the time, or cards that are a little bit open to interpretation, like I think it's the Seven of Swords. I'm going to be really embarrassed if it's not the Seven of Swords, but I believe it is the Seven of Swords, where it was originally intended to be someone gathering a bunch of swords and running away from a tent. But to some people, it looked more like he was gathering all these swords, trying to prepare to defend, and couldn't juggle them all. So it can have a very sinister or a very like trying your best but being overwhelmed feeling, depending upon the viewer's interpretation of it. So this is definitely something like if we were in a game, David, and I throw down a gem card, you probably got an idea that, ooh, treasure is coming. But what if that gem is actually powering a Warforged?
Then you break the Warforged and you get what's yours. But
yeah,
that could get real dark. Actually, so both Kay and Chat, did anyone ever watch, not Legends of the Hidden Temple? God, why does that keep popping into my head? Because we all watch Legends of the Hidden Temple. Pirates of Darkwater.
Oh, there is an actual play for Pirates of Darkwater that's about to start, and I am so sad that I didn't know about it, because I would have begged, whined, pleaded, and stolen to be part of it.
Pirates of Darkwater is what started me down the path of hating things that did not finish.
Yes.
Because now, oh, you have a new favorite Netflix show? Is it on season 3? I'm not going to start watching it. Not going to do it. Not going to do it.
Pirates of Darkwater was a Cartoon Network animated series about Prince Ren, who was I think it is. I saw it and I just screamed, and then I couldn't look at it anymore, because if I looked at it anymore, I was going to crush me. But it had Prince Ren and the Niddler, the monkey bird, and I'm sure if I watched it, I'm sure there's some racism. I've got no doubt, because most of them are dark-skinned. I have no doubt, but when I was like 12 in Arizona watching it, I didn't know.
The takeaway is that there were MacGuffins, and there was this dark magic that manifested as the slime monster from Fern Gully, but less sexy.
Only the whole ocean.
Yeah, the whole ocean, less sexy.
Hey, Lady Luck.
Where once you got the MacGuffin, it cleared up that section of, and the whole idea was I think it was like 12 MacGuffins, like 12 magical things. And then they got to like 7 or 8. And then the story started to wander a little bit. And then they canceled the show. And you're like, broski.
Yeah.
My sibling and everything.
Coming into Fern Gully, but less sexy. I mean, look, so many people discovered multiple things about themselves listening to Tim Curry voicing that slime baddie in Fern Gully.
I can tell you what generation you are a part of, what era you are a part of, by which Tim Curry character signified your discovery of like sexual attraction.
But yeah, that was the thing about Pirates of Darkwater, is it was a cartoon of that era. So let's be honest, a lot of the cartoons of that era were not stellar. The world felt big and alive, and like it didn't feel like it. Yes.
Yeah, it was great.
But
great.
Yeah, so like I said, a lot of really interesting uses for these cards, including I found a singular card from the deck of many things. The other thing I want to talk about, they have a puzzle card. They have an entire chapter dedicated to puzzles, and they tell you how to build puzzles using Deck of Many Things and not using the Deck of Many Things. I have never seen a D&D book that sits down and explains to you how to make a puzzle.
Not once. We've had D&D since the 70s. And look.
They give you example puzzles. They tell you how to modify it. They tell you how to use it with cards. They tell you how to use it with something other than the Deck of Many Things. And they get you started on how to build a basic puzzle.
I will circle back to puzzles in one second. But so like the whole idea, what makes me think of it is already in this short discussion, I have ideas about like campaigns, because one of the campaign ideas is someone comes to you and they're like, my deck is missing this many cards, go find them. And then you could build all these like basically like dark water around, like you could build these events around each card. And then when you complete the event, when you rescue the town or whatever, you get the card and then you bring it back to the guy. And then when you bring them all back to the guy, turns out that the guy was just capitalism in a coat. And then you got to fight him because the bad guy is always and the bad guy is always capitalism. Right. And so like, and then like you can give your party like 6 different directions to go for 6 different cards. And the fact that like and like another campaign idea I had was
the Zelda. Yes
what if, which is a whole thing, because they're like, I'm not gonna go there. We're not gonna turn this into Zelda talk. The Zelda talk show.
Do not tempt David. Do not do it.
It's one of the third rails, like that, and like Star Trek, and like anyway.
Or PAPS.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Fresh, hot. Anyway.
I found the prompt that made David want to play something other than a human in a TTRPG for the first time ever. I did it. Sorry, continue.
Yep. And so, like there, so one of the guidelines is like, if your players are like less than level 10, here are the cards that you can remove to avoid, a full TPK. And I'm like, let me get all the TPK cards, stick them in a little deck, and then hand them to you, be like, draw. Because I think one of the things about the Deck of Many Things, and also like I have this whole someone compiled a 10,000 line item list of wild magic surge effects. And most of them are mundane, some of them are bananas, and it's stuff like that where it's like this level of chaos that could either redirect an entire campaign or completely destroy an entire campaign in one moment, I find really compelling. and it's weird for me to say that as someone who puts all the time and effort into like carefully crafting every encounter that you might have. Like that orphan that walked by has a whole backstory. You just got to go over there and ask her. Um, but I would love to like run a campaign where it's just like you're sitting at a tavern, person sits down at a table, and then like shuffles a deck of cards and then puts them in front of you and says draw. And then just hand up ass, pull out whatever you can. Here we go.
Yeah.
And
like, such a fun, chaotic dungeon, like not even dungeon crawl, just like plane crawl,
right,
world crawl.
And what they did was they gave, like Wizards gave us a deck of many MacGuffins. And I think that is absolutely fucking delightful.
And I just also want to talk about, so again, the cards are beautiful, and this isn't showing up great, but the fronts also have some minor foiling, so you can see the stars.
Yeah.
But here's what I need you to understand. This is all from the same deck, right? So then on the map, X marks the spot, and it's a red. So some of the cards are foiled in silver. Some of them are foiled in red. The fletching on these arrows. I wish this was showing up better on camera. But look at how gorgeous these are. They went all out. Like, this is not going to show up well at all, but the sparks coming off the campfire are gold foiling. They are hecking beautiful. The other thing, and I talked about this a little bit in another thing, and I'm going to see. So again, there's the main book with all the stuff. This is a really handy, smaller, it's very small, book on just how to read the cards. So this is really handy to have at the table, so you're not having to flip through a whole Dungeons Master Guide sized thing. So again, it has divination rules, so you can use this to do 3 and 5 card spreads, to divine the future, to help develop a character, and it gives you readings for each of them. But this is what really has me excited. And for those of you who've been hanging out in our Discord, you know we're focusing a lot on exploration mechanics. Why? But exploration mechanics, it has a thing of, here's things that can happen while you explore. Then they have instructions on how to build a dungeon on the fly, randomly, using these cards. And again, part of the reason I love this little book is it's got each card detailed. So the comet, again, we talked about this earlier.
The comet means Sephiroth 1.
Exactly. So for each, it's got a breakdown for each card. Comet has a person, creature, or trap, place, treasure, or situation reading. So person, a serious person with a gloomy outlook, perhaps carrying bad news. Creature or trap, a creature regarded as an ill omen or signs that dire creature approaches. Alternatively, a trap marked by clear signs, perhaps surrounded by the corpses of its victim. Place, a place with a connection to the astronomical, like the. Yeah, I am dyslexic, and reading out loud used to be the terror of my life, so be very impressed that I'm like holding it together right now. Astronomical events, perhaps an observatory or a meteorite's crater. Treasure, a treasure that carries a curse, or one whose purpose is destined to be used for destructive ends. Situation, a crisis about to spiral out of control. And that's just the upright meaning. It also comes with a reversed set of meanings. So they have this for each card. So if you are, your characters are like, oh, yeah, we found this. I rolled some dice, and oh no, there's it says there should be a dungeon. They want to go into the dungeon. What do? You throw down a bunch of cards. that becomes the map of your dungeon, and you know what those cards are, so you know what can be in each room. And they even have advice for you can lay down 2 cards, so there can be multiple things per room. Like the big room can have multiple things. And again, this doesn't just go through the original 22. This has it for all of the new ones. So yeah, I'm gonna be panic building some dungeons. Also, look at the warrior. Look at how heckin' cute she is.
Wow.
I will say I do think this tool is expressly useful for those who are improving types. A lot of GM's players are not able to expand on ideas spontaneously. You are not wrong. I do agree. However, again, this does make it a lot easier. Yes, it does require some improv of like, oh, the well. This is what's really funny to me about the well being the final card in this deck is that I have a tarot card. I have a tarot deck that actually has 2 additional cards, the artist and the well, that are like the artist went, I feel like there needs to be 2 more cards in this deck. I feel like these are 2 things. And the final card in that expansion deck is the well. So yes, for the well, you know, if it's a familiar person who's a reliable source of information and aid, yes, you do have to like either panic build that person or you can pull from a character or an NPC from before. This book also has tips on how to quickly generate NPCs. If someone has a panic, you throw down 2 cards, and those are kind of the 2 guiding lights of this character. So yes, it is good for improv. It is better for those with improv. I also do think it's very useful if you enjoy improv, if you enjoy doing things a little bit more flexibly, might be a word, but it's not the word I want to use. If you are a little more interested in being flexible, incorporating your characters' ideas, backstories, or letting them have a little bit more control. I mean, specifically inserting these random notes into your bespoke table experience. Absolutely. Like, there are some people who just want to follow a campaign adventure, a guide. I personally, especially for something is when we ran Godplane was a short form campaign. It was a long short form campaign, but it had a clear middle, beginning, and end. There were 3 clear acts, and we had to get from point A to point B. So there were definitely parts of that module where I had to like stick pretty closely to a script, and I'm glad I had it. But sometimes, and actually I would rather improv a campaign, have a rough idea of an outline and improv most of a session, than try and stick to a campaign guide, a campaign module word for word. I don't find that as much fun, especially if I've got really creative performers who are gonna come up with cooler ideas. Then I don't care. It could be the coolest writer. It could be freaking Gabe Hicks text. My players are gonna come up with something off the wall that's gonna be completely out there, and I want to roll with that. Same for me. I want to improv everything. I find myself being inconsistent or not giving my players enough structure. That is also a challenge with improv. And again, part of what's nice about some of this flexibility is, oh, monster. And they even talk about this a little bit in the book. They're like, you can use this as a divination. So at the start of every session, you can have a character pull a card, or you can have them find a card somewhere, get their fortune told. And so you pull the deck of many things card, and it doesn't immediately suck you off to the dungeon, but a session or 2 later, everyone gets arrested. And they talk about how you shouldn't let it stretch on than 2 or 3 sessions because people start forgetting. But you kind of, a fun narrative tool that it can be is like leaving your players wondering and questioning, is the deck making this happen? Or like what is shaping it, right? Is this telling the future, or is this having happened? So I've talked a lot, David, and I know you have thoughts, but I think I just caught you right as you were typing.
Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone. But uh, look, you said that suck you off, and that completely shattered anything that I was thinking
I
about.
didn't even realize I was trying to chase down a thought, and I was sorry.
We and also like I'm busy daydreaming about the game that I want to
I
run.
think your captions have died again.
God damn it. Um, yep, they're dead again.
There you go.
Boo.
Very boo.
Rubber. I can type connect. Oh, I remember. Okay, so it is important to like this is also like a teachable moment because Kay
So
and
I
I.
don't think your captions are connecting at all. I don't even see you in Pixel Chat.
Okay, well it says so Pixel Chat here is running.
Very strange. I don't see you in Pixel Chat, and you're definitely not showing up on the overlay.
Yeah, that's weird.
I refreshed and I sent you a new link.
Okay.
I don't know.
Let's hope it works this time. Full rubber. One day I'm gonna type something obscene in here, and I'll get in so much trouble. All right, let's see if it is. Is it still not? It's still not.
I don't see you in here at all. What the heck, Pixel
Yo.
Chat? You've let us down.
You've been so
After
good
we
for
did a
so
whole
long.
rant about accessibility and
Right?
Hey, Ribbonanza.
Welcome.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna refresh. Invite user. Twitch just isn't sending you notification. You know, sometimes.
Clicku.
Sorry, we are fighting with captions. They do not want to work today. Okay, now you're in.
Now am I in?
You're in.
Yeah. Snowing Wilson. No, no, because it said snowman, and I was like, what? Anyway, so this is a teachable moment because Kay is really good at grabbing stuff off the wall. I have a lot of experience with my players absolutely ruining whatever I'm doing and having to build something brand new from scratch on the fly. And the deck of many things gives you a good framework. It goes, here's a thing, like a pre-designed thing that you could do. Here's how you can come up with something on the fly. But if you are running a game or thinking about running a game, or even as a player, ooze. Like, play to your strengths. Like, if you are the sort of GM where you're like coming up like pulling something out of thin air is not my thing. Like we're running the module, and then your players are like, we're this is the road. We're going off-roading. We're going over here. We've made a hard left turn. It's okay to say to them, look, I don't have anything for this. I'm going to spend the next week, 2 weeks, whenever your session comes back around, working on this, and then we can do it, and then stopping there and then picking up later. That is okay. So
Yes.
play to your strengths. In addition to that, especially if you are thinking about doing it professionally, doing it for strangers in public, doing it on stream, also work on your weaknesses. If you are not necessarily like great at that, then practice. It's believe it or not, it's a skill. All of these things are skills. Like Kay has dyslexia and reads out loud on stream on a regular basis because when we run our games, a lot of the stuff we have, whether it's descriptions or dialogues or what have you, are pre-written. Not everything, and I'd argue even not most of the things, but like the big tentpole things are. And so, and Kay reads them, and that is a matter of practice and dedication. And the first step to being good at something is looking like you don't know what you're doing, because you don't.
And again, there are neurodivergences and challenges that you will never. People with stutters can overcome them, but it will always be a challenge, especially in moments of pressure. So don't feel like we're saying, oh, Kay's dyslexic and they can read fine. Not everyone with dyslexia is going to be able to mask it the way that I do. So don't hold yourself to that standard. Lady Luck asked, what do you think of the deck of many things as a newer GM versus a more experienced GM? I think, again, this is a great thing to talk about right now because, as David said, play to your strengths, know your weaknesses, because the deck of many things can and absolutely will wreck your game. No question. Your parties will be split up. You will have one player who's level 20 all of a sudden. It can destroy your game. One of the very first things that the book says is like, don't be afraid to stack your deck. Don't be afraid to only use certain cards. Don't be afraid to say, hey, this card normally means X, but in our case, this is what is going to happen instead. So again, and this is one of the hardest things to do as a beginner GM, is to know your limits, to know what you're good at, and to know where you need to cover your bases. But again, and we did cover this at the very beginning, but I am so happy to say it again. One of the first things it has in this book is like 4 or 5 different deck configurations that you can use based upon what your party wants or needs. So there is a configuration, like remove all the cards except for these cards if your party is under level like 6, because these are beginner friendly cards. If your party is really role play focused, here are great cards to have in the deck. It even straight up tells you, if you have multiple copies of this deck, don't be afraid to stack it. Put 2 of your favorite card in there to make it more likely to come up. It also says, if you hit the death card or if you hit the void card, by the way, one of the things in this book is the void card rips your soul out of your body and just leaves your body there. There is now a place where the soul is. You can go to the place where the souls have been stolen by the deck of many things. That's a dungeon. That's a mini campaign. That's in the book. It's just in there. So, and they're like, if you draw the void card and you don't want to deal with that again, take the card out of the deck. It's gone. It's retired. It's done its thing. Look at David plotting.
I have a whole thing because I
there's a section, David. There is a mini campaign of if you draw the death card, you have to fight death, and most people lose and their souls get taken. There is a group of undead, everyone slaughtered by the deck of many things. All the undead have come together to try to destroy all the copies of the deck of many things. That's in there.
That's good.
Uh-huh.
Because we have an NPC where they tinker. And so, yeah. Well, I mean, there's tinkering. And then there's putting a bag of holding in a bag of holding. Just to see what happens. Tinkering. And just the idea of this person is like in their workshop doing a thing and then pops over and is like, hey, adventurers, I need you to go get something for me. And they're like, what? It's like, my soul. Go get it. Go fetch. It's like, excuse me? It's like, yeah, here's some gold. Go take care of that. How did you... Don't ask questions. Just do... But how is your body... Look.
This is a pre-recorded message. Don't ask questions. Go.
Right. It's like, I'm Pickle
Why are you
Rick.
responding to me in real time? Did I just tell you not to ask questions?
Right. And yeah, just... there are many books, there are
Ezekiel?
many systems where it's like this is how you run a game, but there I don't remember the last time that just talking about a thing that has inspired this many things. Like I could build an entire multi-year campaign. I hired two people. One of them is an 11-year-old veteran DM.
I have to ask, are they an 11-year-old DM or have they been DMing
Right.
for 11 years?
Right.
Because both of those seem equally likely somehow.
Don't. Oh. Okay. Whew.
Oh, I'm afraid of GMing, but if I ever did, I'd want this deck. Yeah.
I say don't be. Well, I can't say to someone don't feel your feelings. That's not fair. But I encourage you to overcome any feelings of fear that you might have regarding that, just because it's very rewarding. There are far fewer DMs than there are players. And if you have the right table, and just like any director will say, 90% of the film is casting. Like 90% of how good of a time you'll have is putting together your table. And I've been extremely fortunate because Kay goes, "Hey, look at these great people. Let's go play with them." And then I don't have to worry about nothing. I don't got to worry about shouting nobody down, kicking nobody off my table. Just all of Kay's awesome people come and play. But get a table of people that you like and people that are going to be great. And what you'll find is that these people will be patient and accommodating and interested, and they will. It's collaborative storytelling, so like they will add in. Please just don't get so high you fall asleep on the board. May or may not have happened on several occasions back in the day with our old G.
Incredible.
I do want to do a drunk table at some point.
That would
where like the cost to entry is 3 shots before we even get started.
I feel like everyone needs to have like a drink before you start, and then every like crit, good or bad, is a shot. Like, oh, we shouldn't encourage this, but also that would be really, really fun. Lady Luck, I will tell you a little story. I wanted to GM, but was afraid to. Mostly because I knew if I was GMing, it would probably be online, probably be on stream, because that's where most of the people I play with are. And I was very new to D&D and didn't know all of the deep lore of the Forgotten Realms, and I knew that if I got something wrong, the internet was going to read me the frickin' riot act, and my players would think I didn't know what I was doing, and what if I had to look up a rule? I actually was less worried about looking up the rules because I had watched enough Critical Role and seen how many times Matt Mercer paused to flip through a book and look up a thing, and I knew I could find it faster with the Googles. But I knew I wanted to run a one-shot, and I knew I wanted to run a one-shot that I had really enjoyed. I had watched a while ago, and I had kind of, when we reached the end, I kind of just turned it off because it was late. You know how long one-shots can run. And so when I decided I'm going to write a one-shot very heavily inspired by this campaign, and I'm going to make my own take on it. Very little alterations, but just make it a little bit more mine so that I know it well, and then I can watch how other players reacted to stuff on the one-shot, and I feel like I've covered my bases. And I did that. And I went back and I rewatched the one-shot that I wanted to do, and it was the job that I ran for Jet Set and David here. And when I got to the end and I listened, this was one of the first Critical Role one-shots where Matt Mercer was not GMing. Liam O'Brien GM'd it. And he got to the end of the one shot and said, I wanted to run an evil campaign. I wanted to run a game where the players were the villains, and I couldn't find it, so I had to write it and run it myself. And I'm like, that is exactly why I am GMing, because the stuff I want to play isn't always out there. So I guess I'm going to write my own thing, and I don't want to. I'd rather be a player. But I will say, there is nothing more rewarding than people coming to you after and saying, I had so much fun. That campaign, people whom I respect so incredibly much still randomly talk to me about the characters they played in Godplane. Someone's talking about getting a tattoo from Godplane. A person who has worked for many, many years building TTRPG systems was like, this campaign is grabbing me in a way I didn't expect. I need to go back and watch the other season, the other campaign of Godplane, because I can't stop thinking about this. And while I love being a performer and I love showing up and playing games, ooh, does that feel good? Ooh, does that hit in a way that makes your toes curl?
So one of my favorite parts about GMing is I always work to have, and Kay and I have very similar design philosophies. And so one of the things that we always try to do is we always try to give character moments to each of our players. And whether Kay has done it on stream or I have done it off stream, or we've worked together on the design of a game or the design of a document or an episode, building those character moments that are intimate and important and meaningful for players and their characters is some of the best stuff on earth.
I will say that stresses me out. Look, David and I have run some really intense and intricate combats. The Tazik fight in Godplane is so complex. I swear I have some gray hairs from it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it is. I lose more sleep over, did I make this scene? Was this character trial, was this sweet moment for this character good enough, relatable enough, intense enough, what the player is hoping for? That is more stressful to me, because combat drags in combat, especially in 5e. Combat sucks until it's really fun. So I know people are going to walk away from a combat so long as they win and generally have a good time. It's the Barnum effect in combat. They're not really going to remember how many times they rolled. They might remember if they miss a ton of times, right, and laugh about it. They know what to expect. But that is what stresses me out. And when I was running a big bad plus 4 individual characters, each with their own set of moves, plus layer actions, plus at one point an NPC.
Yep.
And still, what concerned me more were the trials. Stressing about. Yeah, I feel you. I feel you, Judy.
At this point, I have designed dozens of combat encounters, probably more, and that is still the most complex. Including out of all the big bads we've run, it is still the most complicated combat encounter we've ever designed. And it circles back to everyone who writes, and I can't speak to other artists, whether visual arts or music or whatever, but everyone who writes has a moment where they go, why am I doing this? And my number one reason for writing, and I've written all sorts of stuff, books, short stories, essays, rants, blog posts, etc., etc. The first is if I can't not do it. Like on day 3 of not having water, I need to go get water. After a certain time, I have to write something, or I'm not going to continue. Um, but the other reason um, is we all have a moment when we are reading something where we're like, ooh, this has formed a core memory. This is something like these couple of paragraphs I will take with me forever. Um, this has become my favorite thing. I want to give that to other people. And it took until like this year really for me to realize that not only are there different ways of doing that, but that really the best way to go about doing it is in a collaborative process. Um, because I was lucky enough to see um, the last of the Lord of the Ring trilogy um, at the Directors Guild 2 weeks before it came out with a bunch of like hardened industry veterans. And everyone goes, ah, man, that movie ended like 6 times. The reason that movie ended, like, well, for one, the book, it ends like 27 times, but there was not a dry eye in the house. And yes, these are people who love movies, but these are people who have seen all of the movies, who have done all of the things, and who are frankly like a little burnt out and a little like, what's the, not mercurial, there's a word, but like they're just not moved by, and they were all crying. And everybody who jaded, yes, jaded.
JD knows jaded.
Yeah, JD knows jaded. And everybody has a memory of Lord of the Rings. Everybody has a memory of a movie or a TV show where there's like the one, like their favorite thing has the one moment in it. And that is the work of so many people working together. And I know that me, even as a GM, even at a table playing a collaborative game with a bunch of people, without Kay, I wouldn't be able to have the impact that I've had on players, on people, or like even people like in chat. Without Kay, without other people who've given us ideas, and without other people at the table helping to make that. And even something as simple as like the overlays or like the music or like the tech all play an important role in that.
And again, when we did Christmas Cookie Caper at December last year, we threw out this one character who looked like he ate mayonnaise with a spoon. And an hour after that combat had ended, chat was still throwing shade at that NPC. And I went back and watched it the next day just so I could read chat. And y'all killed me. So when we say it is not just the GM and it's not just the performers, it is everyone, this talk show wouldn't be happening if people hadn't kept showing up every Tuesday and being like, I like that. I like this. Do more of this. Circling all the way back to your original question, Lady Luck. The Deck of Many Things, the Book of Many Things, is a really good resource to help you pull and gather things. But it is not a campaign setting. Hey, Jason, if you're like, I want a GM for the first time, again, the first time do a one-shot. I beg, plead, implore you, do a one-shot, because you're going to finish that one-shot and be like, okay, so I know 6 things that I'm going to do different next time, right? And I know I've heard from so many GMs, they're like, I did my first time GMing was a campaign, and the first 3 sessions I gave out too many magical items, or I did this or I did that, or I let people blah 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 blah, and it messed me up. right? I had to go back and change a bunch of stuff. It just changed my campaign. Do a one-shot first. And even if you tell players, I want to run this as a one-shot, and if we're all super into it, we can try to make it a campaign, but make sure that you communicate first. This is planned to be a one-shot because I'm new and I might want to revise things. That is my best advice, is just make sure you give to you and to them the space to be like, might have to revise some things. If you want to follow a campaign, so David and I multiple times have run Skyhold Tower, which is an adventure that you can find on the DM's Guild. It is very inexpensive. It's between $4 and $6. It's pretty great. There are some issues I have with it. If you are interested in running it, I have some really cool resources that I will gladly give you, and I will tell you how I altered the campaign a little bit. It is said it's a one-shot. It's a lie. It is not a
it is a falsehood.
It is so far from a one-shot. We have run it as a one-shot by running only 3 or 4 of the floors of the entire tower. It can be a nice long-term campaign, and it can be an intro, a very good intro into a bigger campaign. Cannot recommend that enough. I would love to. Okay, look, most modules that say they're a one-shot are at least a 2-shot. The one-shot in the back of the My Little Pony book, we did in 2 episodes, and we could have done it in 3. Like, we could have taken more time. We still had to rush through stuff. So just be aware, most one-shots are going to be 2 to 3 shots, especially if you don't have table control yet, because you're a new GM. That's not an insult to anyone. It's really hard to wrangle players. Yeah. I still sometimes just don't even bother to wrangle players. I'm like, especially if it's an edited thing, I'm like, cool, you all do that. I'll just edit this out later. If you are looking for something official, D&D, full package thing, I have 2 suggestions for you. For a newbie GM, Candlekeep Mysteries. It is not the most robust of things. There are definitely some parts where you as a GM will have to improv a little bit and make up some things, but this is a really solid little adventure path that will run you through. I think players start at, I'm trying to remember now. I have flipped through this, but I don't remember. But it's good for lower levels. I think I'm wanting to say you start between level 3 and 5, and you end somewhere between 6 and 8. But lots of really fun adventures. They have lots of different flavors to them, and it all, like, you go into a library and people get pulled into tomes. It's fun. It's simple. If you are okay, this is one of the best written books for a campaign I have ever read. However, hey Leslie, how are you doing? However, this requires, I would say this should not be your first time GMing unless you are very confident and very good at improv and character work. But Call of the Netherdeep, which is a Critical Role campaign, is one of the best adventures I have ever read. I flip through. I am not a person who can sit down and read a book from cover to cover for a TTRPG. I can't do it. I read this one cover to cover. I was fascinated. I was excited. However, there's the party that your players are playing, and there is an entire rival party. All of these characters are rival party members, NPCs, that you will be playing in this. It tells you how to play them. It gives you tips on how to interact with people, how they will react to different reactions, but it is still on you as the GM to embody these characters. It's an incredible adventure path. I know they don't call them adventure paths. That's a Pathfinder term. But that's what my brain is at right now. So those are 2 I would recommend for various levels of experience GMing. I would love to run Call of the Netherdeep. I was looking at running it, and then another production started running it. I might, now that more time has passed, if I get the urge, like, oh gods, I would love to run it, or I'd love to play in it. I guess I can't play in it because I've read it. But Book of Many Things is not just a straight campaign. This is going to be much more loosey-goosey. This is going to be, how can I thread these things into my existing campaign, or how can I take all these things and kind of string them together? I think David, kind of has the idea about, someone shows up, says, pull a card, and then you go from there. But there is no straight go from point A to point B to point C. This NPC will say this, and then later they'll show up. That's not here in this book. That's not what this is. So that's useful. If you are curious about good beginner modules, I have a couple that I would be so happy to recommend. And again, first time GMing, please do a one-shot first. Be kind to yourself. There are some people who can pull it off. I probably could have. I'm glad I didn't.
My first 2 campaigns were a disaster. But a note about modules that are billed as one-shots. Kay and I, at this point, have a lot of experience making modules, running one-shots, doing that thing. Every time we work on a charity game, the question I ask first and most often to Kay is, do we have enough stuff? Do we have enough stuff? And then Kay goes, down. We have plenty. We have too much. And guess what?
We always have too much.
Every single, not just one shot, but every single game we have played has stuff on the cutting room floor. Entire sections where we've just gone, whoop, that's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
So many that I could probably build not a game, but like a 8-session campaign just out of stuff that didn't end up in our games. Like there's this
all the
one
stuff
thing
we haven't rolled yet in Godplane, the freaking wishing well from our first.
I was just thinking, I was
heist
like, we could make an
Christmas
entire
one
game
shot.
out of the well.
And Lady Luck, please let me say, don't be afraid to do more than a one shot. I really enjoy, now to be fair, I have never run a long-term campaign. I have always run, I think the longest I've run is 10 episodes, maybe 12, but we'll discuss that later. The longest I've run is a 10-episode campaign. But I'm not saying don't run anything longer than a one-shot because it will be bad. It's kind of like training wheels. You're going to hit wobbles and snags and weirdness that you did not expect. Once you've been in the seat once or twice, you're like, oh yeah, I know how to compensate for this now. But, get your sea legs. I would encourage you to get your sea legs before you dive in, or else, you're going to be doing some work to be like, oh, baby DM me didn't know how to deal with that yet. So we're just going to, that cool thing I gave you, we're going to turn the power down 3 degrees, and your player's going to be sad and you're going to feel bad, but you'll be able to balance an encounter. So that's all I'm saying there.
Also, it's a bit like, for those of us who've learned how to drive a car, when you get that license, you're not comfortable driving yet. Mm-hmm. Like you're tended to, but then 6 weeks goes by and you're back and you're just like, and so getting even knowing what you're doing and having the driver's license doesn't mean that you're comfortable in the saddle yet. And so give yourself space to be ready for when you are comfortable in the saddle. Yeah. Don't paint your it's avoiding painting yourself in a corner the first time you paint a floor. Yeah. It's like you're planning for that ahead of time.
And I still get nervous. Is this going to be good? Is this going to be fun? Every time. I don't necessarily get the butterfly performance anxiety, but I get the oh gods, what if they don't like it? Oh gods, what if they actually aren't having fun? Oh my gods, what if they hate me? What if they all just hate me? What if I'm not actually good and all these people are just humoring me and I'm just wasting everyone's time and no one actually, and that's normal too.
Yep. The current home game that I run, which is technically on hiatus, we're on session 57 or something like that. We're deep in it. Um, and this has taken place over years because not everybody can make it every session, and that's fine. Um, and every time I like lay in bed the night before, the morning of, going, oh my God, did I prepare enough? Oh my God, did I do this? Is this going to be it? And I've managed to convince them to keep showing up for 57 sessions. And if I could do it, anybody can.
And yeah, I have the opposite. I'm like, cool, I'm prepared. And even if I'm not prepared, I can improv it, right? I've got enough that we can go. And I know that worst case, I will suggest a weird thing and the players will just talk about it for half an hour. And I can use that time figuring out what the heck is going to go on next, right? Like, I know I'm good enough at human psychology to do that. And then I finish the session and I lay awake. I feel good for like an hour. And then I like emotionally crash and I'm like, I stuttered of that one thing. What if I didn't say that clearly? Oh my gosh. What if I told them that it wasn't going to work? Please don't make, oh gosh. What if I railroaded them? What if they feel railroaded? What if they don't feel? So again, anxiety, depression, neurodivergence, it's a lovely little pie, and we do it anyway because we get to spend 3 to 5 hours with our friends telling stories, and it's great when it's not terrible, but it's mostly great, which is why we keep doing it.
It's okay. What is your favorite
Gengar.
What is your favorite card out of the deck, just off the top of your head?
I love the Beast card. Now, look, there's lots of them that are beautiful, and there's lots that I adore for the effect. Like, that's a whole other thing. Like, there are ones that absolutely destroy everything. Oh no, it's this one, I believe. There's some truly gorgeous art. I was earlier showing like how the foiling makes effects appear and disappear. Like, but the Beast, it's I love him.
They put a narwhal horn, a unicorn horn, on a bunny.
To be fair, these first appeared in Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Kinley befriended one, but you weren't there.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, like the use of color on these, like when it comes to like pick your favorite art, now that's challenging because look at how beautiful it, because it's black and gray and white and gold foil with just blue mushrooms, while on the other hand, like dragon is just gorgeous. Like, but yeah, I love Stabunny. The Fae is scary.
Yeah, everybody run out and buy 2 so that you could send me one.
Oh, you've got one coming. I just haven't gotten to the post office yet because it's freaking freezing, Mr. Bigglesworth.
Oh, I know. But like, I just imagine like 36 copies of the Deck of Many Things showing up to my house on the same day.
Maze is gorgeous. Even like, again, some of these, just the use of color is so great. Like the blue on the ship where everything is grayscale except the water. Yeah, look, I am very southern, so jackalopes make me very happy. I absolutely have homebrewed jackalopes into a D&D game, but they didn't find them. The tavern, of course, because it's purple, but like, I have an entire art book of Amino's drawings of Vampire Hunter D, where it's most of Amino's work is black and white, and then someone took them and just filled sections of the drawing with neon pop colors, and it completely changed the feel of the art. And that's how I feel about like these cards, where it's all grayscale except for that one pop of color.
The question is that a gazebo or an evil gazebo?
Yes. You're gonna have to fight it alone.
It's an owlbear.
It's so cute. We absolutely murdered an entire. If y'all aren't joining us for our Baldur's Gate playthrough, We accidentally murdered an entire colony of more than just. Also, for anyone who, I think, David, you've heard of, when will you thin? My vegetation genasi. Yeah, someone freaking put them into
saw you coming.
the deck of many things. Yeah, they knew. They absolutely knew. And then, yeah, I showed this earlier, but the ooze, the gelatinous cube with the dead dude inside, just brings me joy. Like, there's some very, very good ones. The Fates, which I'm not going to dig through the deck to find it, but the Fates card is absolutely gorgeous artwork. Yeah. I thought we weren't going to spend this long on it, but it is now 7:30, so it's time for us to start wrapping up. So we will have to discuss the swinginess of D20s in another session. But thank you all for joining us. I hope I answered some questions. And let's see. David, can you talk for just a moment, please?
Yep. Now that the stream is undefended and it is me alone, Kay can no longer prevent me from changing the category to bikini pools. Oh, hi, Kay. So who are we gonna raid?
That's what we have to figure out. Thank you all. I hope we are able to answer questions, satisfy your curiosity. We will be back next Tuesday. Obviously, we're streaming Baldur's Gate 3 Thursday and Friday. Next Tuesday, we will be back with a special guest to talk about the Sagas Kickstarter. And
are you a gibbering mouther, or are you just happy to see me?
Wow.
Yeah. Thanks, Rex. Thanks for putting that in the universe, because here we are.
Wow. Yes, thank you all so very much. Painting Pirates playing Dead by Daylight. Lots of people are playing Dead by Daylight tonight. Wow. Yeah, we could go say hi to Pirate.
Okie dokie. Why is this not muted? Ooh-wee.
But yes, thank you all for hanging out. Again, if you have questions or are looking for resources, we obviously have a Discord, which you're welcome to come join us in. We are also playtesting some stuff if you are interested in doing such things.
Oh, Lady Luck. And JD. Ooh-wee.
Brilliant. And yes, thank you for hanging out. Thank you for always being awesome and showing up and asking questions and making this a great way for us to spend our Tuesdays. I will see you all hopefully Thursday and or Friday to see Baldur's Gate, and we may or may not have something interesting happening Wednesday. Maybe. We'll find out. Thank you all so much. We'll see you next time.